very pleased today to be talking about a topic that we don't really talk about so often, but is very important for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Those of us who have adult children who may want to pursue their own business. And I'm very fortunate to have with me today Aarti Sahgal. She is the founder and director of Synergies Work. And she's going to tell us a little bit about her organization, which is based in Georgia, and how she supports adults with disabilities who want to go in business for themselves. So welcome, Aarti.
Hey, thank you, Rita. Glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your organization and a little bit about you.
Well, I am a mother of two boys. I have two sons. My youngest son, Angad, has Down syndrome. And so I think around 17 years back, my life kind of pivoted when we moved from India to Atlanta with both our sons. My husband's work brought him here. So we transferred from India Coca-Cola to Atlanta Coca-Cola. And I realized that things on paper, what looks on paper is very different than what happens in reality on the ground. So having Angad navigate the school system, I realized that I did not understand the system and what it was being said and how to navigate it. And that's the time professionally, my career pivoted. I had spent before that 14 years in advertising and marketing. And then I started working with Parent to Parent of Georgia, and from there on to the Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities, working on the Real Communities project, working with Dottie on Project Search, and then talking about diversity and inclusion workforce strategies for the business community on the side, which led me to starting Synergies Work really 4 years back, because I realized that employment is still being considered through a narrow scope of only wage employment, when employment can include and does include gig economy, self-employment, entrepreneurship, all the choices that are available to everybody. But within our community, the disability community, we don't provide those choices. And that's what got me thinking about it. And around that time, 4 years back, my oldest son, who was with the bank at that time, he decided to quit and got the startup bug. And it really struck me like that he has that choice. He can take that risk and he has that opportunities to take that risk. But would Angad or anybody like Angad have those choices and the ability to take the risk? And that's really the starting point for having this idea: how do we build an ecosystem that allows people to do their startups, their self-employment, whatever you want to call it, and create a safe space for them to try things, and they can fail because there is no guarantees in life, but allow them to do that and experiment with that.
That is absolutely just beautiful to hear how you were inspired. And so your organization has been around for about how many years?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about working with the individuals, because as people, we want to hear stories. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the folks that you've worked with and some of the businesses they've started?
Yeah, so Synergies Works, we have everybody, all people with disabilities, whoever self-identify themselves as a disability are eligible to go through the program. So we have a 10-week incubator program, which is where you meet weekly and we invite folks from subject matter experts, leaders from the business community who come and talk to our entrepreneurs, our business leaders. Then we provide them one-on-one support, and then we provide them for 2 years. I say 2 years, it can be 3 years, or as long as it takes for them to become sustainable. So the supports to do that. And so the group is very diverse. There are people with intellectual disabilities, physical disabilities, mental health, you name it, maybe sensory disabilities, yes. So all of it is inclusive because our diversity population is diverse. So we want to reflect that. And then, so we have had folks like, let me give you an example of Brandon Cantrell, who is 38 years old, lives in South Georgia. He was in the Florida State Hospital for 8 years, and then moved to Atlanta, I would say 5-7 years back. As a child, he was 14 years old when he went to the Florida State Hospital. And as his mom tells me, every 6 months she would petition to get her son out. And it was, how tedious it is to get out of a nursing home or an institution here. And when they did finally make it, they decided changing the state might be helpful, and they moved to Georgia. And then, cut a long story short, I think he got a lot of resources list because he was desperate to do something and not go to a day program. Finally, at the end of 2019, beginning of the pandemic, Brandon and I got connected. And I remember he came to me with all his items that he makes, and he's a crochet artist, I call him. So he makes the beanies, the shawls, the pot holders, rugs. He just crochets. And he brought that, and I thought, like, my God, he's so talented. How do we get him setting so that people can see and buy it? So since he didn't have much of an experience, he created an entire website for him under the Synergies Work domain name. Now, to make sales, you require sales tax and licenses and stuff. So initially, what we were doing for most of our entrepreneurs were they were selling on Synergies Work. We were using the sales tax of Synergies Work. I was doing the fulfillment of all orders. And at the end of the month, we would tally accounts and pay them the money. So that's how Brandon started. And today, he actually has a shop on Etsy. He makes, on an average, he tells me, around $300 to $400 per month. He is got admission into Liberty University to pursue an undergrad degree. And then after I think one semester, he decided this is not for him. He's not up to it, and that's his choice. So he has dropped out of it. So I think, if you would go to the website, you'll hear his story. For me, it is the fact that he is living a life that is happy. As he says, and now I get up in the morning and I feel happy. I feel like I have a purpose. I have something to do. I'm not just doing things and donating to to hospitals or charity. People who are interested in buying these things. So for me, that's important. Yes, money is important. Yes, that's it. But the sense of fulfillment that you get from doing things that make you happy, I think, is the biggest gift that we can give ourselves. How many of us can get up in the morning and say, hey, this is another day, I'm happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So I love a couple of things that you said. I love everything that you said, but you made a distinction that you support people that have different types of disabilities. So not just intellectual, developmental, physical, et cetera. Yeah. So that's a good distinction. So thank you for bringing that up. And then you also talked about finding fulfillment. So, what that looks like, and allowing people to fail, because that's just a part of the human condition. Yeah. In reality. Right. Yeah. So you support these individuals. So tell me a little bit about maybe some of the challenges that folks with disabilities have when they want to be self-employed, when they want to start their own business.
Right from the point of the fact that we don't even consider self-employment or entrepreneurship in the bracket of employment, I think is the biggest challenge for folks, because you're already limiting the choice for people. We talk a lot about choice in our disability community and advocacy, but we are deciding the choice for an individual by not providing them that menu of options that are available to everybody. Right? So in the state of Georgia, there is still no self-employment policy by the vocational rehabilitation. Even now, across the country, there are some examples, but there are a handful of examples of successful entrepreneurs, right? So where there is no, I would say, there are no people or mentors or leaders with disabilities that individual can look up to and say, yeah, he's been successful and so can I, kind of a story. I think the biggest challenge is also the fact that there are no skill building options available, right? I do not have those options to have that education on how to do business that might be available to everybody. But most important for me is the fact that they are not only role models, plus the fact that we are isolated from the business community. At the end of the day, our loved ones, our children, under the garb of special education, get isolated very fast and very early in life. And in employment and in life, I know somebody, you know somebody, and therefore I get connected to you. That's how life happens. But that does not happen for our children. So, as the name suggests, Synergies Work is all about making those connections happen. I consider the role of Synergies Work as being a catalyst. And if I remember my chemistry correct, catalyst is that element that burns when it brings two diverse people together. It stops to exist. So my mission is that we make that connection happen to the extent that we are not needed in that process. So right from the point of the incubator till the accelerator, everything that we do is making sure that we build that connection between our entrepreneur and the business community. So we have the business leaders, the CEO of Coca-Cola, the executive directors of a PR company who come and lead these sessions in a small group setting so they get to meet the entrepreneurs. We have business guests who come and view these sessions so that they can open up their mind to the talent that exists. And if they want to mentor somebody or they want to have a connection somewhere that business can lead them to, then we find them a mentor-mentee formal relationship. Then we do monthly get-togethers. We have the talk shows that we do every month where we bring in an entrepreneur, we bring in a business leader, either their mentor or we think could be a potential mentor for them together in a conversation, just like we are having a conversation, so that those opportunities and that, as I say, that energy happens, that chemistry happens together, that they can find out how they can build those things. So on February 23rd at 12 o'clock, it will be actually Brandon who's coming on my talk show, and his newly minted mentor, who also happens to be the vice president at GE, and they're coming together to talk about what they have been planning to do and how, as I say, how seemingly different people can connect together at so many different levels here.
Well, a couple of things. You talked earlier about Brandon, and I wanted to bring this up too. So he's 38. So to me, it's not too late. It's never too late to start something. So that's one important. Yeah.
Yeah. And to that point, in the startup world, the most successful startups are by people who are, I would say, 50 plus. So I'm in that category, and I'm in
that category. So that's good to know. That's very good to know. So it's never too late. And then you talked about the importance of mentors. Tell me the importance of, so we understand the individual with disability and the importance of having a mentor in a business for that individual. What about the actual mentor? What are you finding that they receive from this experience? And did they come to this experience thinking, this is not going to work, or I'm uncomfortable here? So tell us a little bit from the mentor's perspective.
I'm so glad you asked that question, because I have the most fascinating story here. I have to share this. So there is this, I don't know, there is one of our entrepreneurs, Stancil Tootle, who is blind, lives in South Georgia, in Baines.
I know Stancil, yeah.
You know Stancil. And his mentor is Carrie Stimmel, who is the vice president of NBCU and lives in New York City, right? Seemingly diverse people. And she was a guest on our I2I program. And immediately after that, she reached out and said, hey, can you introduce me to Stancil? And I was like, what could they possibly have in common? Here, my mind, sometimes we need to step out of the way. I think I need to step out of my own way because I was thinking like I'm the big connector. I'll make these major connections between people happen. And I sat on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat on that connection thinking that here's this gentleman who lives in rural Georgia, and where's this woman in New York City? What could they possibly have in connection? So till I met her in June, and the first thing that she asked me is that, why haven't you introduced me to Tootle? I want to meet him. And I asked her, like, why would you want to meet Tootle? What is there for you? And she says, I want to meet him. And I finally found out that both of them intersect together because they have a history with drug use and they wanted to connect. Today, they talk. My requirement from a mentor is only 30 minutes of their time per month. And we don't monitor the conversations. We have a commitment that everybody will behave in the right fashion as the mentor mentee and get the max from each other. They talk for 2 hours at a stretch. The first meeting was for 2 hours. And if you watch my talk show, the first one was Carrie and Tootle because the energy and the fun that they have just talking to each other is out of bounds. When I talk about this, I have to remind myself constantly to step out of my own way because sometimes, or not sometimes, every time we connect a mentor mentee, it's almost organic. They want to do it. They want to learn. Even in the Brandon and Steve, the first thing Steve meets Brandon and he says like, hey, he called him, I think Mr. Hartman. And he was like, no, I'm Steve, right? Hey, buddies, we're going to get together and how we're going to do this and where we're going to go and where we're going to meet and how. So I think it's a win-win situation, I find, from both parties. Touchwood, I have yet to find someone who says that, and we are new to this whole process, and I'm sure there will be hiccups also. At the same time, we have learned that sometimes we do not connect a mentor-mentee very early in the stage because as it is, the individual is going through the process of finding out what they want to do and then having an added pressure of a mentor. It just adds to that. So sometimes my entrepreneurs have said, you know what, I have autism and I cannot process so many things at this time. So please, we will come and cross that bridge later. And that's a learning experience. That's totally up to my mentee to decide that when are they ready to have that mentor relationship also. So we have faced those issues and we respect those boundaries. Whenever you want, you do it. So yeah, I hope that
So
answers.
it's a learning experience for everyone because every project has hiccups and we learn from those hiccups, right? I mean, that's just a part of it.
And every person is different. Every individual is different. So it's not that anything is set in stone. It's the individual who decides at what pace and what time that they're ready to take the next step.
So you had started talking a little bit, Aarti, about the incubator, and I know that you have an opportunity coming up for folks here in Georgia.
Yes.
And so tell us about that opportunity and how families and individuals can get connected to you.
Yes, they can. We are all accepting applications currently for our spring cohort, which starts on March 3rd. So if anybody is interested in setting up their own business, has been thinking about it, has an idea, has this burning urge to do something which is solve a problem and they have a solution, then they can just put in an application. It is available on the website, synergieswork.org/I2I, or they can reach me or via email. That's the best way. But do it fast because it starts on March 3rd. The only requirement for this is the person with the disability is to be the majority stakeholder in the business. We want them to be the leaders. Yes, you, as a parent, as a coach, a friend, family member, you can join in the sessions. But I encourage and I insist that the person with the disability is the majority stakeholder, and he is the person or she is the person who comes forward every session and is able to articulate and talk about what they're doing. And when I say talk, I use the word very loosely. We have had non-speaking, I mean, not non, is the right word is limited words usage, autistic people, and they have used letterboard to communicate. And that's just fine, doesn't matter, and everybody in the group is respectful and patient for them to make their to communicate what they are saying, what their business ideas. There is a young man here in Georgia who uses letterboard, has set up his peer-to-peer consulting business, and we are facing a good problem. Okay, I have to file for my SSI and let them know that I'm earning such and such money. So that's a good problem that we are learning how to do that with him. There's another gentleman, actually, the same cohort we had, who is the first globally, the first autistic person to be certified for counseling. He lives in California. And they are actually got a contract with the California State Department to provide counseling to other autistic young adults like him. So he's doing
Phenomenal.
that with his mom there. So there are a lot of young folks who are interested in trying to do this business. So that's the only criteria that we look for from the person, and that they're willing to put in a little hard work to do that business. We don't do it for them, we will do it with them, as I say. So they will have to do that hard work, but we will walk with them every step to make sure that they are able to give a concrete structure to that business idea that they have.
So the family members then are there in only a supporting role?
Yes.
Okay. So that's really good to know. So people need to act fast because it's already middle of February and you're starting on March 2nd, but you have cohorts once a year?
We
typically?
have cohorts twice a year.
Twice a year.
Spring and once in fall.
Okay, so if people miss this opportunity, there's another one in the fall.
That's right.
Okay, and so what I will do, Aarti, is put your information in the video description if people want to connect with you further. This has been a wonderful conversation. I just appreciate you bringing your talents to help individuals with disabilities build their own business. I think it's a beautiful thing. And I wish you all the very best of success.
Thank you so much, Rita. What a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.